Hello and welcome. It's Kathy Lee from Kathy's Creative Place. I have a new tutorial to share with you for the Lollipop card I made from the March Craftology box from Country Craft Creations. This tutorial will just take you through how to create the Mountain Valley folds, measurements to create the two layers here. This one I used a doily, and then I also made a shaker part. I won't be going through that today, but I want to share with you how to construct the background so that you can make one of these as well. And basically you can put just about anything on your Lollipop card. So I've added some uh, hand handmade flowers, but you can put any type of motif or sentiment you want to use in the middle, or you can create a cute little um, shaker element like I did here. So let's go ahead and get started. What I've done is I've created a couple of, or I've cut all my elements out, and I want to share with you what supplies you'll need. So first of all, you'll need one of these little paper straws, and you can get these in any craft store these days. I use them. I cut them up and wrap them with ribbon for my cards. They're really versatile. You can use them for a lot of different things, but they're just paper straws. So you'll need one of those, and then I've also got some pattern paper cut here, and these strips measure, I think it's 2¼ or yeah, these I started with 2½. So I cut 12" by 2½" piece of pattern paper, and I also did a decorative cut. This is the one I used. It's a oops, there you go, a Martha Stewart punch. Border punch, and then I just punched, and then I did a little bit of distressing with some ink. I think this is brush corduroy. So you'll need one strip of 2½ by 12, and then another strip of 2½ by 6". And we're going to put those together after we score them. And then you'll also need, for the second layer of your Lollipop, you'll need a 1½ by 12", and then 4" by 1½ . And this one I just did a simple scallop scissor cut, one of my old scissors, and created a border. But you can leave these straight or do any type of decorative cut. So we're also going to score those and put those together too. So also a couple other items you'll need. Some circle punches, or just scraps of paper that you cut in a circle, because this is going to be our base when we fold our strips of paper and roll it around like this on that piece. That's what's going to adhere our Lollipop. Okay, so I'm going to take my scoreboard now, and I'm going to score. I'll just use my score pal bone folder, and then I'm going to score at every 1/4 inch. So 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4, 1. And again, you'll just every 1/4 inch along the 12" piece of paper. Okay, so I've pre-scored all of my pieces. Now we're just going to take our first large piece and just do a mountain valley fold on our score lines. And that does not need to be, the score lines do not need to be burnished. We're going to want some flexibility when we're ready to fan it out like a flower. So I will do this and I'll be back. Okay, so now this last piece I haven't folded yet, but I wanted to share with you a couple of little tips and tricks. When you're doing your first piece of 12-inch strip of paper, your first fold is going to be a mountain fold. So see if you can see. Well, it may be easier to see this light color. My first fold is a mountain fold, and then I've got a valley. So I end up with mountain folds on both ends. On the small pieces, we want valley folds first, because what we're going to do is we're going to adhere this like this. That way it'll be one long piece, and it's easier to do a mountain to valley fold together than it would be like two, or let's take this one for instance, because it doesn't give you as much strength when you're trying to glue these two pieces together. I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, though, just leave them in the comments box, and I'll respond to them. So this last piece, since I started with mountain folds on the end of the 12-inch pieces, the shorter ones, I'm going to start with the valley folds. See, so my second one is going to be a mountain fold, and so you'll just continue like that. And I find it a little easier to, since these are, 1/4-inch folds, find it a little easier just to do each one individually. And then I kind of pinch it together at the end, as you can see here, to give it more of that accordion flexibility. You're also going to need a glue gun. Or some glue that is more of an instant glue. And the reason I say that is I've done both. I've used both wet glue and, okay, there we go. I've used both wet glue and glue gun, and I find that the glue gun takes effect, especially when you're molding it in a circular form on top of your base cardstock here. It molds immediately, it cools quickly, and that's why I like hot glue for that piece. For this piece, we're just going to use some art glitter glue, because this is going to keep it nice and sturdy. I'm just going to glue these two pieces. So in that short strip, the valley fold, I'm just putting some glue on that end, and then I'm going to take that mountain fold, put it right together, okay, and that's going to make one huge long accordion strip, because we're going to mold it around that circular form. So again, because we're making a circular lollipop form, we're going to glue this piece to the other end as well. So again, glue on some of the valley fold short section, and then adhere it to your mountain on the end, and you'll end up with this. Okay, another thing I wanted to mention is that you can also use different fold lines. So if you go a 1/2 inch or even 3/8 inch, it'll just be a little bit thicker as you add layers. I've seen even 3 strip layers on some of these Lollipop cards, and they are very, very, very thick once you start increasing that measurement. So what we're going to do is basically just use our glue gun. We're going to push this down nice and close here. Put some glue gun here. Put our strip on. And then it is done. Now I'm going to do that, of course, on the back. This also, this paper that I'm using is Authentique's Stitches. It's adorable paper. The pink, blue, and browns are just they're really, really pretty. Okay, so I'm going to do that. First of all, I'm going to go ahead and get this larger piece glued together. Oops, got away from me. Okay. Just pinch it together. Looks like one piece, one continuous piece. Okay, that's it. All right, so I think I'll go ahead and start with the larger piece. I'm going to try and mold it down first to get it to, and really I just kind of push my hands on the top of the edges that aren't don't have the decorative punch, and kind of hold it in the middle for a little bit so I can see how large it is. Sometimes if you want to make it a little bit larger, you can actually allow it to expand a little bit, and then you have a little larger circular piece. In fact, sometimes it will relax, and it does that automatically. So I'm going to turn it over very carefully and it'll stay there pretty well while we get ready to glue. So got my glue gun, and I'm just gonna put a bunch of glue down. Doesn't really need to have a lot of glue in the folds. It'll seep down there into it after a while anyway, and then push down. Now here's another part of the hard part. It is hot, so be careful. I will caution you, I've burnt my fingers with hot glue many times before. Okay, and after it cools, it stays right on just like that. Now it'll sometimes, if your paper is not heavy enough, it'll start to fan like a skirt would. So I also recommend using a second layer, and that's the reason why we have a second layer. Or you can put just a front on, another circle, or even a sentiment or something that's on heavy cardstock, so you don't, because you don't want to burn your fingers. And then and then you can have just one layer. Okay, so before we put this on, or put this one together, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this as my second layer, and once I get this one completed and glued down, then, whoops, it's actually going to be on the other side because I want some contrast with my design. So I'm going to use the gingham. So once I get that down, then I can glue it directly to this. And at that point, you can use wet glue. You don't have to use hot glue. I'm probably just going to use hot glue so that I can make sure that it adheres really well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. Now the other thing too, and the reason this is smaller is so that you can have that inner layered look. Let's get it right, I guess, the first time. So it will be a little bit smaller. Your pattern paper will show around this way. And you don't want to make it too small or too large. That's why I provide the measurements that I did. So we're going to make this one just a little bit. So we're going to have probably about a quarter size circle for the middle of this piece. Okay. So because I'm going to glue it this way, the smaller ones are a lot tougher to hold and put together. And the glue will allow you a little bit of time. Oh my goodness, it must be the paper. This just does not want to stay together. Maybe I just need to hold it for a little bit. Okay. Okay. I've also seen some of the other artists out there put this like in a lid, like a lid of a jar or something to keep its shape while they glue as well. We're just going to do it freehand, and I'll mold it together. As I put this on. Okay. Pulling apart. Okay, this will give me a little bit of time to start moving it around. That's the other thing I like about the glue gun. It will give me plenty of time to move it a little bit. Okay, there's my second layer. How about that? It didn't look pretty at first, but it'll turn out just fine. Okay, and I'm going to put just a little bit of hot glue in the middle, just to kind of keep everything in place. The larger piece is not as important because when we get this piece on, it'll be nice and flat. It'll start to flatten out. Okay, so before we do this, now we're going to want to put our straw in here. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to actually cut away a little bit of the straw because this is actually a thick straw for the 1/4 inch here. So I'm just going to cut it down at an angle. like that. So you have kind of like an opening. See that? Okay. And then I'm going to squeeze it together. And I'm going to lay that right inside. So again, little hot glue. Push that down. Once it cools, there you go. Okay. Now, the top part, you can glue that onto this. And I'm going to go ahead and use, again, just hot glue. Okay. I gotta stand up here because I want to make sure that it's even in the middle when it goes down. Okay. That looks pretty even. All right. Now it's ready for decorating. I'm going to get to that, and then and I'll be back in a little bit. Okay, now I'm back with the finished product. So what I did is I put a couple of embellishments and some elements, die cut elements on here. Some from the paper collection, some from my own die cut collection in my stash. This ribbon is from Tammy's store, Country Craft Creations. I used that and tied a bow and put a little pearl on it. It's one of those like grouped pearls. They're really pretty. And then I added some flowers, roses, apple blossoms, and lilies and chrysanthemums. And then for the middle, I cut a little doily from the paper collection, and then I put that on top of my blue paper here. And then this die cut is from Cottage Cuts. It's a little dress. And then I used this little cut apart from the collection, and I trimmed it down, used my corner rounder, and I used pumice stone for all the distressing. I thought it was brushed corduroy or walnut stain, but it was pumice stone. It's a little bit lighter to match the browns in the collection. And then on the back, I put a doily to hide the back panel. And then I also used another cut apart that I just used a corner rounder with and adhered that for kind of like an inside of your card or the sentiment you would have. So that is my cute little lollipop card made from the Authentique Stitches collection from Country Craft Creations. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and I can't wait to see what you create.